In the aftermath of the contested presidential election of 1876, the Compromise of 1877 changed the course of American history. Also known as the Wormley Agreement, this unwritten political deal quelled brewing political unrest in the United States. With the nation teetering on the brink of constitutional crisis, this compromise not only resolved a fierce dispute over the contested 1876 election results, but also signaled the end of the era of federal Reconstruction. In the November 1876 United States presidential election, Samuel J. Tilden, the Democratic governor from New York, received 184 uncontested electoral votes. His Republican opponent, Rutherford B. Hayes, a veteran and the governor of Ohio, received 165. For a majority, candidates needed 185 votes to win. 4 states, Florida, Louisiana, Oregon, and South Carolina, returned disputed slates of electors, putting 20 electoral votes at stake. If any of the disputes were resolved in Tilden's favor, he would secure the presidency. Hayes, on the other hand, needed all 20 votes to be certified in his favor. Without a clear constitutional directive, Congress passed the Electoral Commission Act, which created a 15-member commission to review the contested elections. The commission was made up of 8 Republicans and 7 Democrats, and the commission voted along party lines, 8-7, to certify each disputed vote in favor of Republican Rutherford B. Hayes. But under the rules of the Electoral Commission Act, the findings had to be accepted by both the Senate and House of Representatives. The Senate, controlled by Republicans, accepted the results. However, Democratic representatives in the House resorted to dilatory tactics by raising objections to electors from Vermont and Wisconsin and filibustering the debate on those objections, which threatened to extend the electoral controversy beyond the scheduled inauguration on March 5. However, Speaker of the House Samuel J. Randall refused to entertain these motions, and eventually, the filibusterers gave up. Democrats complained that Tilden had been cheated, and there was talk of armed units marching on Washington. President Grant tightened military security, and no marches ever materialized. At 4:10 a.m. on March 2, President pro tempore of the Senate Thomas W. Ferry announced that Hayes had been elected to the presidency by an electoral margin of 185 to 184. Hayes was peacefully inaugurated on March 5. Since Hayes's inauguration, historians have worked to explain how conflict over the contested election was avoided. Several theories have emerged, with the most thorough and widely accepted was introduced by C. Vann Woodward in 1951. According to Woodward's compromise theory, Southern Democrats acknowledged Hayes as president and ended their filibuster with the understanding that Republicans would meet certain demands. The 5 points of compromise Woodward identified under the Hayes administration. First, the removal of all remaining U.S. troops from the former Confederate states. By 1876, only Louisiana, South Carolina, and Florida still had troops. However, the compromise completed their withdrawal. Second, the appointment of a Southern Democrat to Hayes' cabinet. That was accomplished with Tennessee Senator David M. Key's appointment to Postmaster General. Third, the construction of another transcontinental railroad in the South. This was part of what would be known as the Scott Plan, proposed by Thomas A. Scott of the Pennsylvania Railroad. Fourth, legislation to industrialize the South and restore its economy following the Civil War and Reconstruction. And fifth, the right to deal with African Americans without Northern interference. Whether by informal deal or reassurances already aligned with Hayes's plans, talks with Southern Democrats satisfied many of their worries. This prevented a congressional filibuster that had threatened to extend the election dispute beyond Inauguration Day 1877. Regardless, the election of President Hayes saw the end of Reconstruction. The Democratic Party in the South became the dominant political force, slowly displacing the Republican governments. After 1877, support for white supremacy generally caused white Southerners to vote for Democrats, and the region became known as the Solid South. Did you know?